The Apothecary Diaries is about Maomao, a young girl kidnapped by bandits and sold into a life at the Rear Palace, a world of political ambition where a single wrong move could end with you losing your life. And while the anime does do a fantastic job at depicting the physical scale of this historical fantasy, there is another part of this world that is left completely untouched, a darker, more sinister side, and in this video, we'll explore that world through Maomao's point of view, going over any details that you might have missed. This video will cover chapters 1 to 3 from the light novels and won't have any spoilers past episode 1. The first thing we notice right away is that Maomao from the novels is a bit more nuanced than what we experience in the show. Even though she does have a playful side, it's balanced with a healthy dose of cynicism. No doubt a result of her lived experience having worked as an apothecary in the pleasure districts. When Maomao was captured, it was unexpected but not unheard of. Kidnappers often targeted young women to sell to the palace for drinking money. But it always wasn't for vice either. At times, men would steal young women to barter back for the lives of their own daughters, exposing both sides of the system to be just as vile, a duality no better represented than when Maomao is hauled off to the Rear Palace, a place that houses the imperial harem, which is basically 2,000 women for the emperor's enjoyment. His quote-unquote flower garden, as you may call it, from which he'll pick an empress and conceive heirs. Maomao describes the palace as to be so full of the odor of makeup and perfume that it could make even her, a trained apothecary's stomach, turn. There was a noticeable divide between those who inhabited the Rear Palace, a system based strictly on class that punished everyone in different ways. The populace can be split up into 3 divisions, and the first we'll talk about is the Office of the Serving Women. As the name implies, it's responsible for the lowest ranked serving women. The office divides the staff into 6 groups or shangs. For example, the shang Maomao belongs to is Shang Fu, aka the wardrobe service. A fact that'll become really important when we talk about the mystery surrounding episode 1. Maomao is fated to this division because she had nobody to negotiate on her behalf at the courts. Although she was being paid, most of the money she makes would go to her kidnappers, a fate suffered by those forced into labor. The serving girls had to endure terrible living conditions, like 10 girls being cramped into the same room with zero privacy. The only bit of solace they found was at mealtime, where they could gossip about all the rumors surrounding the palace. Gossip served as much-needed entertainment within these walls, often stemming from hate directed at the emperor, his consorts, and the heirs they bore. And in most cases, the gossip was often more filling than their meals. The girls are allowed 2 meals per day, consisting of soup, porridge mixed with grains, and on the rare occasion, they would have meat. However, even these meager meals are never a guarantee because in the first episode, the prince passes away, so the servant girls' meals are watered down to mourn the prince's death. For the petite Maomao, this was enough food, but for most, they found it hard to get by on. A majority of the girls did not know how to read or write and had etiquette beaten into them before they arrived at the palace. Many were forced into the occupation because of the growing size of the harem. As Maomao coldly points out, the quality of the serving staff was being sacrificed for the quantity. Some came from farming families while others came from the city, and on rare occasions you even had the daughters of officials. Those coming from bureaucracy could garner some respect, but at the end of the day, a serving girl is only as good as her accomplishments. If you can't read or write, you'll never climb up the hierarchy and reach the coveted position of consort, becoming a part of the emperor's garden. Which begs the question, why would you want to join the emperor's harem? Because look at Maomao, she has no interest. Well, the answer is as simple as it has been throughout human history: money and power. The consorts within the palace are under the watchful eye of the Office of the Interior, a division similar to the one for serving girls. Even low-level consorts earn a decent paycheck and are given a room within the palace because at the end of the day, this is a job. Every girl is given a palace rank, and that's gonna basically determine your life. The lower your rank, the further away you are from all the action, and the less chance that you'll ever catch the Emperor's eye. And the Emperor's attention is the only currency that matters within these walls, making the competition fierce. If a consort is graced by a knight with his majesty, they would receive new rooms. And if they were to share a second knight, she would see her rank through the palace rise and have made it in this world. The clearest example in the first episode are the two high-ranking consorts, the precious consort Gyokyo and the wise consort Rifa. Rather than rooms, each high-ranking consort is given their own pavilion. These are massive in size and akin to some palaces and can often be bigger than towns, furnished with dining halls and even gardens. Each high-ranking consort is granted a unique title, pavilion, and color, which acts as a symbol of their status. High-ranking consorts also have access to ladies-in-waiting, high-level servants that cater to their every need. Their tasks can vary from applying makeup, serving and preparing food, to even accompanying the consort to special events. But even life as a high-ranking consort is not sunshine and rainbows, because the hierarchy has no inherent order. This means you can lose your footing at any time, which is largely dependent on the Emperor's favor. And that favor is heavily weighed on whether or not you can give him a son. At the time of the first episode, the largest pavilion in the rear palace, the Crystal Pavilion, was awarded to Consort Rifa. Since she was the only high-ranking consort that gave the Emperor a son, she was the most powerful consort in the entire palace. And we saw a clear example of what this power looks like because the doctor was forced to care for her child over the imperial princess. As Maomao coldly observes in the books, one sympathized with her, but this was the rear palace, and male children were more prized than female ones. Not to mention, within high-ranking consorts, there's always an air of animosity because at the end of the day, it is a competition. Consorts who fall down the ranks or are never able to climb in the first place see their quality of life diminish. Without ladies in waiting, they have to rely on servant girls to meet their day-to-day needs. We saw Maomao deal with this in the first episode, and the situation is more elaborated on in the books. Maomao has to do the laundry of a proud and beautiful noblewoman who is basically now a shut-in. She arrived at the garden only to figure out how cruel the world can be. Beaten by the competition, she locked herself away in her room, devoting her entire life to lazing around and drinking. But this mindset came with its own peril because consorts that can't get the Emperor's attention after a certain amount of time and age are demoted. Demotion can mean many things, including being exiled from the palace and being married off to an official. And this is a complete lottery because you never know if your future husband is a kind man or a complete psychopath. But the fate that terrified the consorts the most was to be bestowed upon a eunuch. Eunuchs are men who are missing their quote-unquote most important part. If you've been watching Dandadan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This is because men in principle aren't allowed within the rear palace. The only men that can enter are members of the royal family. Even eunuchs aren't allowed to hold an audience in private with a consort. They must be accompanied by a lady-in-waiting. Maomao found the whole thing twisted but had to agree it was a logical thing to do. The palace housed 500 of these men, and they answered to the domestic service department. Eunuchs often performed the same tasks as the maidservants but held some unique positions, such as palace overseers, guards, and physicians. In the first episode, the royal physician messes up and costs the prince's life and puts the princess in danger. However, events like this are par for the course because it's hard for the palace to find competent medical professionals because anybody that's good is not going to want to become a eunuch. And of course, women are forbidden from becoming doctors. It's expressed in the novels that eunuchs often take on effeminate characteristics and develop an addiction to food that replaces their other appetites. And given the lack of romantic options, some girls did get together with the eunuchs. Some even became their wives after they leave the palace. It wasn't an optimal outcome, but some people found it a better option than the women lusting after each other. And with this little fact, we'll conclude our first look at the vast world of the Apothecary Diaries. If you like this cut content episode, leave a like and subscribe so the next video goes right into your feed. because the world of the Apothecary Diaries is full of rich rules and details, all based on historical facts, and some of these things become the cornerstone of the mysteries that we see in the show, something we'll be diving into in the next video.